Men who lived alone and then had a woman move into your place. What are some examples of a woman's touch that she added? Random thoughts. Worked on a ship when a female cook steward started working there before the crew were all male. Within a couple of days, the mess and galley were transformed. Tablecloths, curtains, coasters. It was really all new. The galley became a water cooler kind of place where you always could go to have a chat and get a snack. The galley always smelled of cooking, and she was listening to her radio. It was a real game changer from the former grumpy guy and sterile setting. Our skipper loved it. What one mistake ended your career? Customer calls to place order over the phone. Not unusual. And wants to give me the card details there and then. Red flag. I initially refused, but another member of staff vouched for them as they were regulars. Put the order through, knowing that whoever came to collect would need to come into the office for their paperwork before loading, so we would have them on CCTV if it did turn out to be suspect. Only the yard crew didn't follow process. When a van turned up for the goods, they loaded it all up and sent them away without asking for any kind of ID or manifest. The payment card was later reported as stolen, and the staff member who vouched for the customer denied even being in that day, which was a fucking lie, as she never took time off. I got fired and everyone else got to keep their jobs. Worked retail pharmacy for 10-ish years. One day in the drive-thru, we had a belligerent patient. Guy's doctor sent his script to our other chain about 1.5 miles down the road. We were on the same street. Addresses get mixed up all the time. No biggie, give me 10 minutes and I'll have it ready. Dude just starts laying into me for no reason. Calls me an idiot, calls me incompetent. Says he knows where his doctor sent it and I'm a lazy, lying piece of shit. After a few minutes going back and forth, with this guy yelling loud enough in my drive-thru that other staff inside the store can hear him, I tell him he needs to leave and find a new pharmacy. Guy lays into me again. Refuses to leave. I tell him, fuck off or I'm calling the police. Apparently that was over the line for my company. No interview with HR, no discipline, no suspension. Just straight up fired my ass about 3 weeks later after internal investigation. I was a part-time intern making $9 an hour and my boss asked if I had any plans for the weekend. I had said I was going to buy a new car. Very much old and used as that's what I could afford, and he asked if I was buying a brand new car. My response was that my budget isn't big enough for a new car, and a couple weeks later during my one-year review, my manager said they didn't have the work for me, and that I was disrespectful for telling the boss I didn't make enough money. At the time I was living comfortably as a college student, just needed different transportation. I tried not to be disrespectful, but apparently I was. What is something you were raised with that you found later was absolutely not the norm? Random thoughts. I grew up in Christian Science. We rarely went to the doctor. It was always pray about it and you'll be able to heal yourself. I had never had an ibuprofen or a Tylenol before I got to college. Random thoughts. I was only allowed to be friends with Christians or kids of Christian parents. No Catholics either. I didn't realize how brainwashed some Christian households can be. My kids won't be subjected to that ignorance. Getting beat as a child for literally anything that upset my birth giver. Growing up, I thought families having dinner was only something that happened on TV. I didn't realize families actually ate together at home, being scared of your dad, like always on eggshells and absolutely terrified. I remember being at a friend's house and her dad came home from work and she was excited to see him. He didn't yell at her even once. How about you? My dad would cook all of our meals. He was an amazing cook and everything was homemade with no recipes needed. No boxed or processed foods with our dad cooking. He also did all the grocery shopping. Our mom would basically clean up the mess. She didn't mind at all. She enjoys cleaning. I really had no idea until I moved away from home and went off to college. How rare it was to have a father do the cooking. I'm 46 now, so my generation it was almost exclusively the mother cooking, grocery shopping, and cleaning. I gained so much insight and knowledge about cooking from my father. I was truly lucky to have him as my father. What was one experience in your life that hardened you as a person? When I was 14, I was walking down our busy road alone in my neighborhood in Albuquerque. I had just had shoulder surgery. My arm was in a sling. A man in a Jeep drove by then, whipped his car around, and stopped his car next to me on the side of the road. He screamed at me to get in the car. When I refused, he got out and tried to grab at me. I was not super agile because of my recent surgery, but I managed to dodge away from him for a good minute. At least 20 cars drove by during that, and no one stopped to help me. He soon drove away. I will never forget the callousness of those drivers. I'm sure they saw what was happening, and they chose to look the other way and keep driving. That day I realized that I can't rely on most people, at least strangers, to help me in my time of need. Trigger warning. Gosh, working in the back of an ambulance, you see so many terrible things. One that does stick with me was a call for a 30-year-old female for... She jumped before we got there, but she was still conscious and very much alive. She hit a balcony on the way down and smashed her arm, huge open fracture. That itself isn't very memorable, but when we got there and got our high-vis jackets on, I looked over to my partner who was a few feet ahead of me, just standing there shocked. I looked at the patient and she was biting and ripping at her fracture. And I don't know why it fucked me up so bad. Just the notion that someone could be mentally unstable and deranged enough to shred and pull at her own flesh. It was something else. Yes, she did survive. She only ended up opening the wound more as she did not have the strength to move the bone at all. She also went unconscious on the way to the hospital. My mom let me watch Unsolved Mysteries, 60 Minutes, Dateline, and the news every night unsupervised from like age 4, and I had a TV in my room and watched whatever late-night stuff was on. That doesn't sound like a huge deal until you realize I was able to understand what they were talking about, and that this was at the high crime peak of the 90s, when they were arresting Jeffrey Dahmer. I would go through the house checking for murderers every night. I'd draw the curtains so they wouldn't get the drop on us. I knew where all the guns in the house were. I also saw so many of these kids killed by their parents and guardians. I couldn't stay with anyone besides my mom without worrying they would rape me or kill me in my sleep. It was horrible and, in my opinion, mentally abusive, though they didn't do it to be malicious. My daughter is 6 and can't watch 101 Dalmatians without getting scared, and this is how I know I've done better by her. High school bullies, where are you now? I was a bully. I grew out of it once I realized no one liked me that much. Things are okay now. Most of the female bullies I know are nurses now. Ironic. The 2 bullies from my high school are both dead now, one by suicide and the other in an industrial accident. One of mine became a teacher. I was going to transfer my child to the school, and once I found out, I said nope. They are cops in management now. What are some signs you should not become a parent? If you do it in the hopes of saving or advancing your relationship, or if you wish to compensate for perceived lack of personal achievements. If you can't look after yourself first, if you want to use them for content on your social media account, if you're thinking of having kids so they can be your retirement plan, then please don't. Having a lot of unhealed childhood trauma. Adults of Reddit, what is something every teenager should know about the real world? During high school, learning how to learn is more important than anything you're actually learning. For better or for worse, confidence opens as many doors as competence. Life never settles down. If something is important to you, then you should get to it ASAP. Everything is expensive when you move out. $1,000 is a lot to owe, but not a lot to have. Former rich people of Reddit, what is a luxury item product you used to buy regularly that you could no longer afford and found the out of generic/consumer brand was exactly the same? I used to buy expensive laundry detergent for babies because I was allergic to something in many detergents that would give me a rash around my waist or ankles. Also, bed sheets would do the same. I had the realization that hotels can't afford to use detergent on their sheets that gives any of their guests rashes and asked a housekeeper what they used. Now I buy a 40-pound bucket of Boardwalk industrial detergent for $1.40. It's very concentrated and only need to use a few tablespoons per load, and a bucket lasts about 2 years in my house. Products and things are boring. The nice thing about money is services and not worrying. Ooh, the lawn needs cutting. Make a phone call. Ooh, I want my bathroom redone. Phone call ECT. One thing I learned as I got older, sometimes paying for a service you can do yourself can be more cost-effective and/or better quality. I was working very long hours and lived somewhere with shared laundry facilities. You couldn't leave things unattended due to theft, and I didn't have the time to sit there for hours to get it done. A local laundromat had drop-off services with these little old ladies doing it to supplement their retirement income. It ended up costing me about $10 more, but also saving me 3-4 hours a week for a much better quality job. Totally worth it. Grew up middle class, married someone wealthy, now divorced and back to middle class, buying the latest technology every year, newest iPhone, newest MacBook, etc. Thousands of dollars wasted buying something slightly different just for looks, really, when the once being replaced was still perfectly fine and had years of life left in it. Something I miss that I wish I could afford would be the expensive furniture. Having a home that looks like something out of a magazine really sparked joy. Also having a subscription for regularly delivered flowers. No way would I pay for that now, but sure was nice. What is something you would typically find in a rich person's house? A separate temp-controlled wine cellar that takes up walls and walls and is filled with wine. I have a friend whose family is mega rich. I always thought the elevator in their guest room that took you down to the huge indoor pool in the basement was definitely a rich person thing. My father-in-law worked as an electrician in some really fancy neighborhoods. Some wealthy people have 2 kitchens, one on the main floor that is barely used and for show, and another that is used all the time on a different floor and out of view. Heated tiles in the bathroom. A poor person doing their housekeeping. If money and space were no object, what would be some features of your dream home? Secret doors and walls. So many secret doors and walls. A room with ton of music stuff. A Steinway piano, guitars, amps, bass guitars, cellos, and whatever else I can afford think looks interesting. Personal racetrack. Then I can finally drive my car like 100 plus without breaking any laws. I totally would want an arcade game room with a couple pinball tables, some classic arcade games, like The Simpsons, a skee-ball machine, air hockey, and a nice pool table. A lazy river that winds through the house and goes outdoors. It would wind past multiple beer fridges. What is the best possible reply to a person who says you're ugly? I hope that's the only thing we have in common. I've been called worse by better. Looking them up and down and then quietly laughing to yourself. I find just replying okay irritates them more. Also, why do people feel the need to say that? To me, I can't wrap my head around the fact that they are so bothered about my appearance that they need to say it. Why are you so obsessed with me? A good thing to say to bullies as well. How about you?